Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting of the Osoyoos Town Council, Tuesday, October the 28th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. So we first need the approval of the agenda, and there are no late items. No, thank you. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of some minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting on October the 14th, 2025. Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thanks. And so we will go on to petitions and delegations. And today we have the Osoyoos RCMP Sergeant Jason Beta, who is here to give us a quarterly report. So please go ahead, Sergeant Beta.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for having me. Feel a little tired this morning after last night's game and disappointment. It was a good game though. So yeah, I'm going to present the second quarter stats. Apologize, we're quite a bit behind on our stats with the busy summer that we had. It was tough to get out and present them. We just recently, about a month ago, presented the stats to the RUS and trying to get out here to the municipalities and present them as well. So they're a little bit dated. They're for April to June of this year. We'll actually be doing the quarter three stats beginning of December, so we'll get caught up on that. But I also brought, we do another ComStat bulletin that we kind of do in-house that steers our policing to areas of need. And so I'll provide those more up-to-date stats to you as well today. So for the April-June, our year-to-date change from 2024 to 2025 for call volume or service calls was down 2%. So pretty much on par where it was the year before. Our assaults went up by 2 compared to the year before. And what we had there is we had an individual in town involved in the criminal element into the drug trade and what have you. And the majority of the assaults were committed by that one person against victims that associate with him for, whether it's purchasing drugs or things like that. So fortunately, he's in jail now. And last I heard is they're looking at an extended stay. So I'm hoping that comes to fruition and he can get some correction that he needs. Domestic violence is basically where it was the year prior. The thing with domestic violence is it's a lot of these things happen behind closed doors where we don't often hear about it. When they do get reported to us, we do our very best to get the victims help through our victim services and other providers in the community that can help them get through those difficult times. Auto theft. We had a big problem with auto theft over the last while, or previous years. It's starting to come down. Thankfully, we saw a slight drop from 16 to 13 in this quarter, which is good. Excuse me. And then move on to breaking into businesses. I think it's a good thing to note is breaking into businesses right now are at the 5-year low. So that's a big positive. It's one of the things we're doing is trying to promote how to not be a victim of property crime and things businesses can do, whether it be surveillance systems or what have you, to prevent crime. In fact, when you get down to our thefts or shoplifting has seen an increase, but I think the increase is because one of our local businesses has put some really good security systems in, and it just means they're catching them more. And since they've done that, since we've caught a bunch of people, and a lot of them are repeat offenders, mostly stealing clothing or clothing, different types of attire, those are starting to drop as well. So we also encourage businesses that if you do see someone and you have someone in your shop that's stealing, make sure you call us. And if it's a person that's it's down on their luck and this one-time thing, we can always go through some type of alternative measures like restorative justice that really seems to curb people. We don't necessarily have to go through the criminal justice system, but if it's a repeat offender, then maybe the justice system is the only way it's going to curb them. So overall, the stats are pretty decent. I wanted to just reflect on the most current stats. I think you all have a page there that says Comstat Crime Bulletin on it. So that's one that we provide to our members locally. And we do that on a monthly basis. So we can really get a picture of where we need to draw our attention to. So again, over the last August 15th to September 14th, and then the next month, September 15th to October 14th, we're seeing a drop basically across the board on all crime. And so that's a trend I've been seeing the last few months, crime dropping. And I think a lot of it has to do too with us bringing in extra members for the summer. And I've had a lot of comments from people, seeing officers they don't recognize, and when you see 20 different officers you don't recognize, whether it be over a number of weeks, it gives that impression that there's maybe a lot more officers in the town than we actually have. So that's a good thing, and we'll continue to make sure that we're out there and available to people if they have questions, and we like to educate people on how to prevent being victims of crime. So please come up to any one of my officers if you have any questions, and we'll be glad to share. So, and I'm open to questions to the group here.
Thank you very much. Can you sort of fill us in on how you're doing? I know you have a couple of new recruits that are here in town, because you're quite right. People have said, well, I didn't recognize somebody that was there. How is that working? Because I know you really tried hard to get that, and we're very happy that we have 2 extra people here.
Sure. So Constable Kiana Gill, brand new member out of Depot or Training Academy in Regina. She's been here for just over 2 months now, working out very well. Seems to love the community already. And in fact, Osoyoos was a place that she has to come to. She's not from here, but it had been here before. And so it's always nice to get people joining us that want to be part of our community. And the Constable Preet Kamal Singh, he comes from the Lower Mainland, but was trained out of Depot in Regina and joined us about 3 weeks ago. And from what I can tell so far, he's going to be a really solid member. So pleased about those 2 additions. We also have a constable coming out of Mission. I'll provide his name and everything once we 100% confirm that everything works out. He has to go through the process of selling his house, and we all know the market's not as good as it has been in the past. But I'm told in the area he lives in, houses are moving, maybe slower than at other times, but they are moving. So we're optimistic that he'll be here hopefully sometime by the early new year.
Good. That's terrific. Thank you very much. And you were happy with, I understand, the accommodations that were provided for the RCMP members that were here on short-term week or 2 weeks or whatever you needed them for in the summertime?
Nothing but praise from the members that were here. Watermark, really helped us out, making sure rooms are available, and at a rate that was
Good.
very reasonable. And so it actually, people that were coming here were spreading the word to others about how nice our community was, and that prompted more to come and work in our community. So I'm very pleased with the results.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Did you, Zach, go ahead?
Your worship, through you, Sergeant Bennett. First off, just want to thank you for the work that you did do this summer, obviously addressing your staffing challenges. I definitely was nice to see some fresh faces on the street there. I know many of the ones who've been just coming and covering, whether it was a shift or 2 on the weekend from even detachments in the Okanagan. They were kind of pretty happy to be down here and enjoy a weekend or a day, and so pretty committed to their casework. I just want to thank you for highlighting those that restorative justice part of the shoplifting side. And what we're seeing too is this isn't just 1 or 2 items in our case, it's basket loads, and they're getting, now we're seeing with stolen property, and whether taking trucks or fleeing, and some of them are just down their luck, and there's others that are just doing it for the thrill of it, and there's others in between that are using it for other purposes. And but I think restorative justice is obviously an opportunity for businesses to not have to tie up the court system as much, and hopefully come to a good resolution. Thank you, Your Worship, to hammer that, because we are seeing, in our case, we're seeing more and more now than we've ever seen before, and it's pretty gutsy as to what they're going to do to try and get it out the door. So
Yeah, and thank you for pointing it out. I was actually part of restorative justice when I was in Nanaimo when it was a pilot project almost 25 years ago. And so I had the ability to put a lot of people through restorative justice and really understand the system. I hear a lot of comments of people saying, well, why aren't we sending them to jail? Why aren't we're just slapping their hand by having these little meetings. Restorative justice is actually an excellent service. I've seen people go through that and completely turn their life around, where they get to sit in, amongst the people that they victimized, either the store owners or others. Sometimes they'll have their families in there with them, and they get to explain what they were thinking at the time. Store owners get to explain how it affects them, and I think it really gets the point across to these people that have made these mistakes, and they turn their life around much more than they do when they go sit in a jail cell. So thank you.
Thank you. About 10 years ago, I took a restorative justice course here at the Sonora Center, and there was 3 or 4 days, and we went through all kinds of scenarios. There was a group of about 8 of us. But then after that, everything was held in Penticton. And that was a kind of concern for people that were down here. But I know that some of them were able to go, but it seemed to have died down for a while. Has it picked up again, restorative justice?
I don't know if it's died down or as such. It's just we do still run it out of Penticton, but we will hold the basic meetings in the jurisdiction where the offense happened. So we have people traveling around doing it, and if possible, the officer that was involved in the investigation will attend as well. So yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. Anybody else have any other questions for Sergeant Beta? Well, thank you very much for coming and for providing this. I also hear, of course, the overall view for the South Okanagan when I'm at the regional district table. And I always appreciate hearing what other communities, especially ones close to us, the concerns that they have, and also hearing from the superintendent on what is going on in the whole district, because we do work together, and Sergeant Beta is very good at doing a lot of the news broadcasts and the publicity on things like that. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Next, I think we have Lauren Meads. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to Osoyoos, and you're going to give us a little presentation, which we have in here. I'm going to let Lauren speak first and explain what she's doing and why she's here, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about, because I've been involved with this for a while. But so anyway, welcome, Lauren. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I recognize some faces here. Another Lauren, I see. So my name is Lauren Meads. I'm the South Okanagan Conservation Fund Administrator. Some of you may also know me from my other job, where I'm the Executive Director of the Burrowing Owl Conservation Society of BC. So you might recognize me. Okay. Ooh. Slow. This is a video. It may not play here. We'll just double check. Oh, and it'll start in the middle. This, you can find this on the conservation website. This is a video that that the fund presented before it became an action. So I just wanted to briefly sort of showcase that there is this video that you can watch later, but this was what the original, when it first started in 2016, and then it became into effect in 2017. So protecting our water resources, important habitats for fish, building on networks for natural places, helping landowners, and also enhancing outdoor recreation and tourism opportunities. So we'll kind of skip ahead. It's a little dated because some of the stuff does say it's under $10 a year. Of course, costs have kind of come up since 2017, but it is still pretty close to that amount. So everybody asked me, why have a local conservation fund? Don't we already do stuff? Well, we don't, unfortunately. There is some government grants that some nonprofits can apply for. But again, it is based on where you are located. This is very unique. There is one other one that started in the Kootenays. And this is sort of what based on this fund is sort of based on that one. And since then, we've got some others in the area. But again, it's really looking at protecting those clean water sources, conserving natural areas, and strengthening community. And we have to recognize, as you guys probably do know, is the South Okanagan similkameen is biologically unique in Canada. It is the only semi-arid desert in Canada, and it says here second highest, and I think that's the South Okanagan. The similkameen probably has the highest number of species at risk than any other regional district. So we have a lot of development here, but we also have a lot of species that we want to protect. You may recognize Bryn White. She was the one that worked with the South Okanagan Similkameen Conservation Program, which is now going through a rebrand. I was also on the board for that. But she was instrumental in starting this. She now currently works for the Nature Trust of BC. So I took over from her as administrator about 3 years ago. So again, there was a Kootenay Lake Local Conservation Fund. And again, it's looking at this money that is raised in the community stays in the community. Otherwise, the only other funding sources for a lot of these nonprofits are provincial or federally. And that doesn't necessarily mean it will stay in those sort of communities where it's raised. Since the beginning of the South Okanagan Conservation Fund, there is now a North Okanagan Conservation Fund. So it's not all of the North Okanagan. It is, again, whichever community sort of decided to be in that. So like Lumbee is part of that, and Coldstream. And Fraser Valley is even looking at starting a fund. So these are kind of, they're great because, again, it's money that's local and it is used locally. The guiding principles for this conservation fund, again, is trying to act sooner. So we all know in the news and everything that, you know, if we don't act now, things are going to disappear, and things are disappearing. Acting smarter, so really using this science-based approach to protecting habitat and the environment, and again, working together, so a coordinated effort, very inclusive, and investing your money more wisely. So the impact since 2017, we've granted about 65 grants and granted over $2.6 million with matching funds about over 10 million. So matching funds is funds that these organizations have gotten from other granting sources or in kind as well. So you can see, like, even though you're putting in that kind of amount of money, you're getting a lot added as well. So just a little bit about the bylaw. I'm not an expert in RDOS bylaw stuff. So if you guys do decide to join, I will direct you to Tracy Batten and we'll kind of go through that process. But again, it was adopted in December of 2016. And these were the areas and cities that opted to join. So A, C, D, E, F, and I, City of Penticton, District of Summerland, and the town of Oliver. And at that point, the maximum amount to be requisitioned was not going to be exceeded $450,000. And we want to keep it at that amount right now. We feel like that is a pretty good amount. Only last year did we actually exceed that amount in requests. So again, these are groups that aren't asking for a lot of money, but they're doing a lot, having a big impact. And then you're saying, well, why, if we don't spend all the 450, what do we do? Well, we keep it because we also support land acquisitions, which I'll talk a little bit later. So we're like, hey, you guys want to join? So we would love you to be part of it. Currently, you're the last ones in the South Okanagan to that we would love to join. That means it's a complete picture in the South Okanagan. The similkameen, we may have to run a different model at this point just because of their population base. So we may, just discussing recently, we may have to do something differently with that. but really it is the South Okanagan Conservation Fund. So we'd love you guys to be a part of it. And again, having that coordinated conservation effect without borders. As we know, species at risk and ecosystems don't see those borders. This is something, just a little bit of the financial, so it sort of seems to change quite a bit. But generally, the current fund acquisition, this is sort of how much each of the regions are putting into that. And so we would keep the 450,000. We wouldn't raise it if we had Osoyoos in. So then everybody would kind of go down. Obviously, Osoyoos would go up, but everybody else would kind of go down. I was hoping if the Similkameen joined, everybody would go down a little bit more. So that's over 1 year of requisition, and then weighed at the RDOS. So current assessed value. So these are people in all the regions right now. If you're around 500,000, about 1450 a year. If Osoyoos came on board, it would go down. So about 1320, and sort of an average Osoyoos home is around 1619. This is what the RDOS is saying. So it would pay about 1619 a year. So for the conservation fund, just a little quick on how we decide what we're going to pick. So again, it's a tax-based fund. So therefore, the decision-making process is really the taxpayers or the RDOS. So all of the projects are brought in. And again, we're probably only getting maybe 8 to 14 projects in the area. And the RDOS appoints a technical advisory committee. So that's made up of scientists and local knowledge. And then we will do recommendations on all of the applications, and then that goes to the RDOS. So Sue would be there, and other people would be making the decisions on the final decisions of what will be approved and what won't. So our technical advisory committee, this is our current one right now. So we have, we just added a couple new people this year. But again, we have people that are retired, people that are part of the province. We have Indigenous support, as well as just a huge breadth of knowledge and knowledge of the area as well. So these people typically run for 1 year to 3 years, even to 5 years on the technical committee. We go through the applications, make sure they're technically sound. We rate them based on that and sort of make our suggestions of what will be put through to the RDOS. There's also ineligible projects. So this was kind of put in. So things that are already federal, provincial, or local government responsibilities are not going to be covered. Capacity building, projects only with recreation, and you can kind of see a lot of other ones, like things that are only mapping or only inventory. We really want to see things on the ground, right? So maybe there is some mapping or maybe some inventory, but there's also putting plants in the ground or removing invasives. So you can kind of, all of this is on our website, which will be changing because the RDOS is redoing all their stuff right now. But I can send all that later. And then our TAC will come together and they'll look at the projects. They'll look at the feasibility. So is this feasible? Do you think they can actually accomplish it? And sometimes applications for 1 year, sometimes 2 or 3 years. So they'll state that at the beginning if it's a 1 year, a 3 year. Cost effectiveness, is the money that we're granting them, is this being well used? Because again, we're responding to taxpayers' money. So we want to make sure that these projects will be as cost effective. Outside participation. So again, looking at, it's not just us doing it, not just the RDOS and the cities and the towns. It is other people are supporting this project, whether it be in kind or other funds as well. And the project effectiveness, is this effective in the community? Can they complete this on time? And any other concerns. If it's been approved for that first year, it's really stringently gone through. If it's a second or third year, they do need to apply every year. So sometimes we've had people apply in the second year and they may not make the kind of progress that we said, so they may not get the money. but it is a little bit of a different scoring. It's not as stringent. It's like, is everything to date? Is there overall evaluation? Is everything running okay? And another thing that we do is land acquisition. So this isn't the RDOS purchasing land. This is saying there is money that is held back. So the $450,000, if that isn't all parceled out that year, it will be kept in a reserve fund. And this only happens maybe one every 2 to 3 years, we get a land acquisition. And that usually comes from, so this was SILT, so the Southern Interior Land Trust. This was the last one. I'm not going to say the spring name because I will botch that, but you guys, some of you might know it because it's in rural. Yeah, it's your problem. There you go. So they asked for money for that. So, and it usually tends to be a bit more. So it's over usually 100,000. We also get requests from other groups like Nature Trust of BC or Nature Conservancy. Like these are conservancy groups. So they're asking for bigger amounts of money, and these tend to come at any point in the year. So we need to have that reserve so that we can accommodate that. And that has really shown to improve biodiversity and environment, like really protecting those habitats. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple of the projects that we've had recently that would have loved to have an Osoyoos, but unfortunately, because you're not part of the fund, I have to be very explicit that you can't use the funds from the conservation fund in that community. If you have other funds from somewhere else, that's fine, but the conservation fund. So this was in Castanet, so Penticton earns thumbs up from Bat Conservation Group. So there's these bat-friendly communities. So Paula Rodriguez de la Vega, she's the Okanagan region coordinator with BC Community Bat Programs. So this was their first year. They've gone to a lot of the communities already, presented on bat habitat, bat friendly. They can hand out certifications. I actually live in Kaleden, so I was able to take out the bat pack for my son, and we were able to do that in our backyard. So right now, they're in all of the areas. They even asked me specifically, can I do it in a city of Osoyoos? I'm like, well, you'd have to use other money. Can I do it in the Similkameen? Unfortunately not. So, which is really hard because for me, in my other job, I'm like, yes, of course. I want everybody to know this knowledge, right? Another one that's just very recent that's got a lot of traction is the Similkameen Invasive Species Society, or it's Okanagan Similkameen Species Society, which is called OASIS. Right now they've been their big thing right now is taking out invasive species and working with the local communities and governments there to remove them and then do planting and even giving plants to homeowners that have been able to remove their invasive species. So we're talking like tree of heaven and Siberian elm trees. So it's been in the news lately, and here's a picture of Lisa Scott with the mayor of Oliver. So they've been able to do that right in the city of Oliver. So some people ask me, well, the city of Osoyoos, what can you do in there? This is stuff that you guys could have right now. They even have people in Karamias have been like, well, how do we get into that? Well, you got to be part of the conservation fund. So these are really great projects. They don't cost a lot of money. This was $20,000, or actually under $20,000 for 1 year. So, and she's going to be doing it for the next 2 years in all the other communities. Another good project is the Okanagan Similkameen Stewardship Society. So some of you may know them if you're farmers. They work with a lot of agriculture, but they also work in cities as well. So they did a lot of restoration at the Skaha Lake Park, and they did that with the city with funds with the conservation fund as well. And they were able to have students there and local community help with planting and rejuvenation of that pond as well. Sometimes I go by that pond, there's some logs in there for turtles to bask in as well. So these are projects that are even within a city, so not necessarily has to be outside the city. This here is another little video that we just did recently We hosted a tour for the RDOS, so anybody on the RDOS could have come on this tour. We did it all in Summerland just because we wanted the projects really close to each other. So one was at Trout Creek. So ONA has been doing a lot of huge restoration projects. So there, and then Okanagan Smilkameen Stewardship Society has been looking at yellow flag iris removal. So that's those beautiful irises that are yellow and they just choke up the streams. And what was the last one? Oh, the bats. We went to Sunoka and they had some bat boxes there as well. So there's also that little video if you want to watch as well. Otherwise, I'll be staring at a screen. And so I would love to be able to, like, maybe next year we can kind of do stuff around Oliver, or if you guys decide to join, if that's something you guys want to do, you would have to make that decision on, and any questions you have, but probably the earliest it would start wouldn't be till 2027 anyways. I guess we won't watch that. I don't have any business cards for this one, but there is my email as well. And currently this is where the website is, this soconservationfund.ca, but it will be moving to under the RDOS soon. But if there's any changes to that, I can let you guys know. But I just really appreciate you, especially Sue, to kind of keep inviting us back here. And we would love you to join. And any way we can do to make that happen, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Really appreciate you coming. Bryn White has been here before presenting to us, but it was a few years back. I just want to put this in a little bit of context because I have been on the RDOS. When this first came up at the RDOS, I had my hand up and Osoyoos was going to be part of it. I came back here to the council table and the council who support my position at the RDOS said, we don't think that we can afford it. We don't want to do this right now. We can do some of the things by ourselves here. So I then had to go back to the RDOS and explain, and they all had a vote on whether I could withdraw Osoyoos or not. But however, that was a bit tricky. I don't think they actually could have done that because there was money involved, and so I'm sure they couldn't have made that. However, since then, I have not had a vote at the table. And I want to say that Oasis, although they're in Oliver right now, they do come down here as well, and they help remove puncture vine and a few other things. So they do spread around. I have always been in favor of the South Okanagan Conservation Fund, but I just haven't been able to bring Osoyoos Council on board. So I really appreciate the fact that you've given us all of this information and the money that's involved, and we would then have to decide whether to include it in our budget or not. So I just wanted to say that because I'm always interested in what's going on everywhere else, and of course, I sit there at the table, but I don't have a vote. Did anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much for the presentation. Hi, Lauren. How are you? Good to see you. Good presentation. Just a question. Is it just nonprofits that can apply for funding?
Yes, it's nonprofits. So
Can they partner with the town, or is that kind of?
yeah, they can. But again, if it's municipal, not really.
Okay.
But yeah, they'll not partner in sort of funds, but they'll partner in saying they're working with the city on this
It
initiative.
might be a little hard to answer. Is there kind of a magic number, like 5,000-10,000? Could I ask for 100,000 if I'm a nonprofit? Would that be realistic?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've had, especially for like the really big projects. So like ONA doing some restoration, it's going to be over 100,000 for sure. Yeah. In 1 year. Yeah.
Sean?
Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, has there been nonprofit groups that have requested to kind of just work in our area, but not knowing that we're not part of this conservation fund? And then obviously you had to go and say, well, Osoyoos isn't part of it. Has there been that type of outreach?
Yeah, that's happened quite a lot. So we are very clear on the website that it's these areas. And when I get the applications in, I'm like, that it's not in this area as well. So yeah, that's why I highlighted just those two, just those three actually, because I've had requests from the Okanagan Similkameen Stewardship Society to work in Osoyoos, the BAP program to work in Osoyoos, and Oasis as well. And yes, Oasis and these other programs can work in your area. They just get other funding. But other funding comes and goes, especially when it's federal and provincial. I just know with my own nonprofit as well, we don't get provincial or federal anymore. So a lot of these are like, okay, these conservation funds, these local ones are a lot more stable.
Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Lauren. It's good to see you again. A question, Area B I see is not in there. Is that not the area up beside our park on the hill, or proposed park? And the second one is RDOS. This is not part of this?
The RDOS. The RDOS is, yeah, so they're the one administering the funds. And then, sorry, and then Area B is that's part of the Similkameen. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought.
Yeah.
Area A is involved, so anything around the town of Osoyoos is involved for sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have to kind of, it is confusing because there is some parts up in the Chapaka area where it can sort of cross over into those other, in the Similkameen. And so we have to be like, no, it has to be in the rural area A. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Madam. Last question. Do you have to have matching funds, or you fund a project 100%?
We used to sort of be matching funds, but it's more like we just want to see support from other organizations. So it doesn't necessarily have to be matching, but we want to see some in-kind and other people supporting it as well. Yeah.
So Borbica, is that what it's called? Spring is actually in Area A, and that was the one that you showed on the picture. So it's right up near your house, Marg.
Yeah, so you do see the effects of some of that. So yeah.
Mr. Chong?
Thank you. So last year, how much in terms of grant funding were you able to secure both federally and provincially?
For who? For
just in general for all the projects and like.
Oh, I don't have those numbers. Not all of them are like I don't know what each organization has. Some and a lot of the projects are very different. So I find with the conservation fund, it is a bit more open, that there's a lot that they can do. Sometimes with federal, it's like you need to work with multi-species, or you can only work in these ecosystems or priority places. So every year it can get quite narrow, whereas ours are like, that's the list of ineligible things, which is pretty common with a lot of federal or provincial grants. So yeah, I don't know what the other ones would have gotten. I just know what we're able to give as well.
And I know that some of the projects where they might ask for $100,000, when the judging is done and they decide it could be 50, you know, and then they would likely check and see, is it possible to do this with grants from other groups? So yeah. No, you guys do a great job. I'm always appreciative, believe me. I would have been happy to be involved with this, but you know, we have to, we could look at it again, I'm sure. And if we decide we can put it on the agenda.
Just like to see maybe move this on to the budget and then have more discussion around it and see if there's support for it.
Yeah. And I would also, before you move to that, just to get in touch, if you guys are looking to that point, is to get in touch with Tracy at the RDOS and Wade, just to come up with better financial. This is just like a quick snapshot that he kind of did before he went on holidays. And so it is around that, but I just want to make sure you guys get the most accurate. So if you want to pursue that, you can contact me and we can set up another meeting.
Not a problem. We can look at putting it on the agenda or on our budget issues first, and then we can deal with that for sure. Did you have something else? Yeah.
One slide that I found really impactful was, you know, 2.6 million in grant money awarded, and then over 10 million in matching funds from other sources. Can you kind of dive into like how the matching funds kind of work?
Sure. So the matching funds, so again, that can be in kind. So you can have volunteers or other employees sort of putting in money to that. Also, a lot of these other groups, there's water funds. There's other local funds like water board funds, or maybe Ducks Unlimited will contribute some funds as well. Also, places like Okanagan Nation Alliance can access some other Indigenous funds as well. So those are some of those other matching funds. Oftentimes with the cities, they may have a couple of workers, maybe some funds there, or they're donating some of their city workers as well to help with it too. So it can come from a lot of different sources. But to say that, you know, extra money is also, it's not just the money you guys are putting in. So if it's around 40,000 a year, you're probably going to get back over the years, probably 200, 300,000 of money actually coming back into the community.
So essentially, it's for every dollar we spend, we get $4 back at zero staffing cost.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what nonprofits, we get
Maybe.
paid very little.
Maybe, depends.
This is why I have a second job.
Depends on what
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
apply for too.
Yeah.
So we have to find some projects that would work here and then apply in the same way as everybody else.
And if you
does.
join too, I would make a big thing about it, like, hey, now it's City of Osoyoos is in, everybody get your stuff in, and you know, try and include the City of Osoyoos in that.
Well,
So,
they all
yeah.
give me a bad time at the regional district, so I've been used to it for a while.
And it's more of a good news
Yeah.
story.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, we're
absolutely.
gonna, you know, you're gonna pay an extra 10, $20, but it is for this.
Absolutely.
And it does, even like Okanagan Similkameen Stewardship Society, they work with a lot of residents as well. So it's on private property too. So even these residents are getting stuff back. I mean, Lisa Scott was telling me with the Osoyoos, with the Oasis trees, like she's given these trees back. So people are getting $100 trees back. So, you know, it is kind of worth it. Yeah, in the end.
Well, thank you very much. You've answered a lot of our questions. You're very enthusiastic about this, and we look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you very much,
very
Sue.
much. Thank you. Okay. Can we? Yes, go ahead.
Your worship, do you want to ask for a seconder on that motion to consider this in conjunction?
I thought we had one over
Okay.
here. And so what we are voting on then, we'll take a vote on whether we should include this in the budget deliberations this year or next year, or does it matter? Yeah, we haven't started budget deliberations. We could do it. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, so we will now go on to a zoning bylaw amendment, parcel coverage at Meadowlark Development, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Garish.
Great, thank you. And through the mayor, I'll just start my presentation. I appreciate that this is familiar with council because we have been discussing it at previous committee of the whole meetings. So I am starting with some slides that you have seen before, just a reminder on the background for where this parcel coverage issue came from. And with a lot of stuff in the zoning bylaws these days, especially in relation to small scale multi-unit housing, it's a response to provincial changes in relation to the Local Government Act. Specifying how local governments should deal with single detached duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes within their communities, servicing requirements, and also what the province refers to as the minister's provincial policy manual, which sets out not necessarily required standards that have to be put into your bylaw, but standards that the minister certainly thinks help facilitate the provision of small scale multi-unit housing. And this ran the gamut from building height to setbacks, even vehicle parking, which there's a total side issue, so subsequent amendments to the Local Government Act coming on, and also parcel coverage. And the minister's manual does speak to possible ranges that a local government could consider. So if you have a density of up to 2 units on a parcel, 30% is recommended. Up to 6 is 60%, and so you can infer from that when you're dealing with the required density in a town like Osoyoos, which is generally going to be 3 to 4 units when the town's exemption expires in 2030. You can look at that in the range of 40 to 50% parcel coverage. So what is parcel coverage? It's basically the footprint of all buildings on a site, and there's various reasons why local governments build this into their zoning bylaw, and it is a very common provision. It helps to deal with overbuilding, overdevelopment of a site, protecting form and character, ensuring adequate open space. And if you're not allowing impermeable surfaces over 100% of the parcel, that theoretically also helps with stormwater management and the ability of a parcel to absorb some of the rainwater coming in. So that's basically the background for parcel coverage. Now, interestingly, the town's former bylaw, which dated back to the 1990s, didn't set out parcel coverage for any of the residential zones. Because of the age of that bylaw and just how long ago it was adopted, it was unclear to staff at the time. And this is in 2024, last year, when we were responding to provincial guidance on new zoning requirements. If that was an intentional omission or if it was just an oversight, don't know. So taking into consideration the minister's recommendations, there was, as council probably recalls, there was a whole whack of changes proposed for the residential zones. And we did highlight the introduction of a parcel coverage allowance just to make it clear what the expectations of the town were for developers. And in the RS1 zone, that was set at 50%. Now, interestingly, of course, as council may recall, the development of the Meadowlark area, southeast Meadowlark, sorry, was going to be form-based zoning when it was introduced. Small-scale multi-unit housing basically punched a big hole in that because a lot of what the form-based zoning of Meadowlark attempted to do, the province basically mandated through small-scale multi-unit housing. So in updating the zones to reflect provincial requirements and recognizing what Meadowlark had previously attempted to do, we moved away from form-based zoning, and Meadowlark got a lot of the same zoning regulations that other residential neighborhoods in the town received, and that included the 50% parcel coverage. And as council will recall from the last time this came up at committee, we did do a survey of other local governments in the south end of the valley. And for comparable zones in Penticton, Summerland, and Oliver, the parcel coverage generally ranges from 40 to 50%. So the 50% in Osoyoos was on the high end and not dissimilar to what you find in other communities. Now, I think the challenge is that, of course, Meadowlark is continuing to be developed. And because of that forum-based zoning that existed before, the parcel development that was occurring, I think, was generally just over 50%. And so there was a concern that I don't want to say standard or set design that they use, but that the type of housing that they're looking to develop in that site just generally exceeded the proposed parcel coverage in the zone, and a lot of confusion as to whether that was grandfathered or not. There are certain elements of land use that are grandfathered when new zoning regulations come in, and that's primarily in relation to subdivisions. That same grandfathering doesn't apply for building permits. So any building permits received after the new zoning bylaw came in would be expected to comply with that 50%, even though maybe other houses on the same street in Meadowlark had a 51 or 52 or potentially just under 53% parcel coverage. If it was intended to use the same design on Meadowlark going forward, I think it was conveyed at the time that the change or the discussion happened in September that probably looking at a variance permit, that's wholly on the developer if they want to go that route or modify your design to get to the 50%. But we appreciate at a staff level that since that discussion, there's still been ongoing confusion as to what that's meaning for the continued development of Meadowlark. And so we're back before council today to seek direction on this issue. I know we recommended previously that we retain the 50%, but we're putting back to council today that that could be reconsidered. And given the dwelling design that we're aware of now for the remaining undeveloped lots at Meadowlark, we're recommending to council on a site-specific basis for, I think, up to 10 or 12 parcels at Meadowlark, consider applying a different parcel coverage allowance, and that would be 53%. And that would allow for the continued use of the existing dwelling design on the remaining parcels without the need for ongoing variances. Of course, with all these options, there's other alternatives the council could consider, which would be number one, as you can see here, the status quo, which would keep it at 50%. Any parcel that doesn't comply with that would have to get a variance, and that would come before you as a council to look at on a one-by-one basis. As we put to council previously, there's the option of a variable parcel coverage, and what we mean by that is if there's suites or accessory dwellings proposed, that the parcel coverage could be increased to facilitate those. And then the third option would just be a general blanket increase greater than the 53% proposed by staff, and that could look, I mean, it could be anything, 55%, 60%, or 70%, as we've indicated here. But we are at a staff level. We are at a staff level recommending the 53% parcel coverage in order to facilitate the continued development of those set dwelling designs. So, depending on what council's preference is, I just tried to sketch out some rough steps here. We would do some basic public engagement, internal, external referrals, and then if it is a desire by council to change the bylaw, consideration of first reading, probably at your next meeting. If it's status quo, then none of these steps would be initiated and we would just leave the bylaw the way it is. And that's it for my presentation, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garrett. You've explained it very well. I'm just looking at the Southeast Meadowlark 2, which is what we're talking about. And you say that there are 10 undeveloped lots in there, is it? I'm trying to.
Yeah, through
does
the mayor,
anybody
give or
count
take.
them? One's a,
Sorry, I didn't have a printout, so I wasn't able
Yeah,
to do a quick count, but I
okay.
think it's in the range of 10 to 12
so
parcels.
have the homes that were intended for those lots, they've all been designed, ready to go. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Is
that's
that
our
what
understanding is that if you can see on the aerial photo there, there's some, I think about 3 sites that have dwellings on them, and I think they're all a fairly set design, and the intention of the developer is to continue with that design over the remaining undeveloped parcels, and if he does so, 50% doesn't work, but a 53% coverage based on calculations that we did, the staff level would allow for that to occur without any variance permits being needed.
And this would only be for Meadowlark 2, it would be specific to this area. Okay.
That's correct.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Quick question. If this moves forward and gets past the 53%, then could they still come in and ask for a variance?
They could.
Thank you.
And I could be recalling incorrectly, but this meeting was like a month ago or something like that. And I believe it was around 50% was the agreed. So 53, that 3% is very well in the range of around 50%. So was there leeway in the original phrasing or was there no leeway? Because if there's no leeway, then we need this. But before it was around 50%. So this is kind of redundant. So could I get some clarification on that?
I don't believe Mr. Garish was at that meeting, so I'm happy to hop in. I believe it was asked very specifically in that meeting if it was just even a hint over 50, whether a variance would be required, and the answer was yes.
So we adopted the Osoyoos zoning bylaw number 1395, which included the introduction of a maximum parcel requirement of 50% in the R1 zone. So basically what we need to do is start this and initiate this change if we so choose, and then it would go to a public meeting. Is that correct? What we would need to go to a public meeting on this or not? Do we know?
So through the mayor, so this would fall under the province's prohibited public hearing type of development because it's exclusively residential development. So we would, I think there's a requirement to notify that council would be considering an amendment of this type. And council can certainly request or receive representations from everybody who has concerns, but there would not be a public hearing on this one.
Thank you. I just wanted to check about that. So what do you see as go ahead, Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the recommendation 1.
Then second, and is there another question? Yeah, go ahead.
I personally am in support of expanding parcel coverage to 60-70%. Mainly because if we're looking at densification, I mean, it just makes everything, it's very much in line with that goal. Also from a staffing perspective, what's going to be next? 56%? Is there going to be a variance request for 59? And then do we keep updating this to keep adding 3% every time? Or do we just hold it at 60-70%? So I guess that's a question to the rest of council.
I personally don't, I think that's far too high. That's it, in my opinion, but I certainly would be agreeable to this ask because I know that the buildings that are planned for there would fit into this category. There is no way that any of these properties are going to be able to subdivide for an extra house behind. I think they're too small. Is that correct, Chris? If there was, I mean, if they wanted to add, there wouldn't be room on the property to add something else because they were fairly small to begin with. Am I correct?
So through the mayor, so yes, they are small parcels. I think generally, off the top of my head, I think most of them are below 400 square meters in area. So subdivision would be difficult. And as council is aware, we do have, the town has an exemption from full implementation of small scale multi-unit housing to 2030. But when that exemption expires, the zoning will have to be updated to allow up to 4 units on those parcels. Now, what form those units take will be up to the developer to work within the confines of the parcel that they have. So I think subdivision would be difficult, but it wouldn't be surprising potentially to see multiple units on a parcel as a single, maybe strata entity. So.
And the highest that you have seen so far is 60%. Is that right? On that's what you mentioned in here, 60% of if it's 2 or 4?
So some, sorry, through the mayor. So some local governments have an extra density requirement because of transit service. So City of Penticton is one of them. And so they're mandated under the legislation to allow for up to 6 units on parcels close to transit hubs. And in those situations, the minister recommends 60%. But for 3 to 4 units, well, for 2 units, it was 30%. And so you can infer from that between those two that for 3 to 4, 40 to 50%. And from what we've seen other local governments, 50% seems to be the max.
Thank you. Councillor King, did you have something? No? So. And we were just asking for thoughts. I'm not sure there's a motion, but did you want to say something else?
Well, I guess it comes down to the spirit and the reasoning for parcel coverage, right? So from the report, there's 3 main points: protection of neighborhood character, ensure adequate open space, assisting with stormwater management. With the second point, first point, protection of neighborhood character, that's so subjective, right? I mean, everyone has a different definition of what they want their neighborhood to look like. So just going to disregard that point for now. Adequate open space, retain space for yards, gardens, trees, and outdoor living. We are pushing our community to xeriscape everything, regardless. So in terms of the point of trying to create green space, that kind of counters each other. And then the third point of assisting with stormwater management, we live in Canada's only desert where precipitation is so low. I mean, I feel like in our own region, the stormwater management isn't a high or mid priority. So, which to me it justifies expanding parcel coverage to 60 or 70%. And I could be incorrect, not a town planner, but the lots we have in Osoyoos, they're not massive by any means. So if we are looking at increasing density, then I mean, developers can only be so creative with what space they can build in.
Yeah, I did move option 1 and Councillor Bennett did second it. So there is a motion on the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree, Johnny, with what you're saying. Maybe right now to get this passed and let these guys get building is we pass this now at 53% and then we take a look as a council to look at it 60 or 65 or 70 and change this to moving forward on other subdivisions after this. But I think right now we're kind of meeting this, but I hear what you're saying. The government's going to force us to go over 50%. So down the road, we're going to have to deal with it sometime. Is this the right time, or do we get this through and then we work on looking at a different percentage?
Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, if it's helpful to council, and obviously you would see the applications as well, but if after this, we continue to receive variance requests where parcel coverage is an issue and people aren't able to meet 50% and are asking for 55 or 60%, certainly at that point, we would probably come to council and say, look, we have an issue here with this, we need to review it. But at this point, I think we're dealing with a unique situation where we have a set design for dwellings in a defined neighborhood. It's not meeting the parcel coverage based on the previous form-based zoning that was there before. And I think that's a very unique situation. So I would be inclined to say, let's monitor it going forward. And if it does present itself as an issue, we can certainly bring it back for your attention and direction.
Thank you. So let's go back to the motion that is on the floor then, because it looks like people are ready to vote on that. Could you read the motion, please, for us again?
The motion that council's considering is that the Town of Osoyoos zoning amendment bylaw number 1395 point 11 is to increase the maximum parcel coverage permitted at the Meadowlark development from 50% to 53%, and that process be initiated.
So can I just check? It's only Meadowlark 2. Am I correct? Should that be put in there? Is it not? This is what we're talking about, Meadowlark 2?
Well, if it's helpful through the mayor, sorry.
Yeah.
So the amendment bylaw that you're being asked to initiate only applies to those defined parcels that are shown there, nowhere else. Yeah.
I just wanted to check on that. All right, so we've got this on the floor. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Garish. So we'll move on to the next part. I think we're going to be dealing with a lot of these things over the years, aren't we? There's I think, quite a lot of issues that are going to come forward, but we might as well take them one at a time because they can be overwhelming. Okay, we're going to look at Community Services Quarterly Report next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor,
Thank you.
Council. This is a Community Services Department report for the third quarter. I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. We'd like to welcome our new head coach of the Osoyoos Coyotes, Jackson Playfair. They've gotten off to a great start. Okay. We had a Canucks alumni game at the Sun Bowl Arena. It was an excellent fundraiser and did very well. Attendance numbers were relatively the same for public skating as it has been the last couple of years. We continued with more filming in Osoyoos with their tracker series, which was a little bit exciting. Got some free posters. The Cactus Kids summer program was busy. We had an average of 50 children per week, and it seems to be growing as we continue on. During this time, we sold 287 annual passes, which is in comparison to what we sold in the last couple of years during this time. 4 special events were held, including the community barbecue and movie night. And we want to thank Strike Alarms for their donation and their sponsorship. Topping our fitness classes was Total Body Fit with 586 participants over 23 classes. We had 3,340 member drop-ins, which was well over the third quarter for 2024. And round 3 of the RMI program, we provided an extra 20, or it wouldn't be an extra, it was still within the RMI funding that we had, $5,000 in funding to 3 different groups, and they were the Actors Inclusive Society, the Osoyoos District Arts Council, and Music in the Park.
Thank you very much. It looks like things are busy over there, and I know that some of the classes were canceled because of a lack of participation, and some of them are very much oversubscribed. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Most times when we first put our, especially new programs, we get a lot of interest at the beginning, and then if we don't get enough to run, we actually have to cancel. But we will be working on that in terms of a little administrative efficiency as we move forward.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I notice here, Dr. Davis, that the Cricket Club had 144 participants in a 5-day sponsor bill this year, which is excellent to hear. And also that your membership went up from 2601 to 3340. That's a phenomenal.
Yes, it is actually. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Director Davis. Director Davis, just curious with some of the changes of minor hockey recently, if that's created a challenge in us and having some more available ice time that we need to either hopefully fill, or is there concern there moving forward as to what that looks like in terms of scheduling, or is there some opportunity there for us to, increase maybe our private rentals to kind of fill some of those voids, especially some of those tournaments that have decided to?
Thank you for bringing that up. That's an excellent question. if council is not aware, the structure of minor hockey in the South Okanagan is a little bit different this year. They're trying a pilot project where we have a number of kids who would play on a rep team going to different communities, i.e. Penticton. That would be directly through the South Okanagan Minor Hockey Association or SOMA, which is the South Okanagan regional group. So for this year, I think we're okay. Depending on how they move forward next year, I think if the parents want an opportunity for their kids to play at a higher level and they want to take the opportunity to play on higher level teams, that's an option. But for those parents who are the diehards, they would be traveling a lot more. It's bad enough, when we're doing 3 or 4 tournaments a year, but now that would be increased, and their home base, even for practices, would be a little bit, for travel as well. So I guess, the big factor would be next year. We may lose a tournament based on that structure that they're doing because it just wouldn't be here. But otherwise, yes, we will keep a close eye on that for sure.
So Adam Fiesta is still a go.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, that's one of the big ones. So yes, I've heard from parents, excuse me, that this is maybe a problem, partly because if their children are hockey players are in school and they have to travel in the evenings up to Penticton. I'm not sure whether there's other places. I hope it's not as far as Kelowna, but I mean, it could be, I suppose. Then that it interferes with their ability to study, get up and get enough sleep, that type of thing. Have you heard that from some of the parents?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So I think the biggest, the thing here is when there are hockey academies out there, and there are parents in the past that have decided to, put their children in those kind of programs. But that's a decision they make on their own to play outside what we would offer here through minor hockey. But we have had a lot of people that would, complaining definitely for that purpose for sure.
I'm not surprised. Okay, are there any other questions of Mr. Davis? Okay, well, of course, the only other one that we're concerned about is the playground or at Meadowlark, seeing as we're talking about that. So we're hoping that that's going to be underway soon.
That is the plan. Right now, we're still in the irrigation development phase. Depending on the weather and how we can put our own resources to work. If it's not started here within the next month, definitely will be completed and into the first quarter of next year, maybe second quarter.
I guess I asked the question earlier. How do you get the person that owns that lot to move that dirt, since an agreement's already in place that he's supposed to remove it? How do we kind of force him to remove them?
I would think the developer on site at Meadowlark, and this is a question that our CAO may want to follow up with to me. There was a permit through our engineering company to be able to use and move the dirt on site for grading purposes. That's been approved, and that was done in June. The question is that this is an adjacent site where this dirt is. It's actually not right on the playground. So for us to be able to get in there and move and do some stuff, we can. But obviously the dirt that's on site, we're not going to, if the playground was done, that would have to be a bit of a push for sure. But there is authority in place now for that developer to move and use that dirt.
Can I ask if there are more houses being developed in there and they're digging out dirt, where do they put it? Or is it up to the developer to remove the dirt and get rid of it while when they're building? You can't put it on an extra lot, can you? I mean, I'm not sure. Do we know?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to have to refer to somebody else on that question.
Okay. Well, maybe we need to look into it because that could be an issue. That's why I thought that what dirt was there was from,
That is, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yep.
okay. Well, it's certainly something that we'd all like to see since we've had this playground in the works for what, 10 years? 7? Okay. It's been a long time. So we really think we need to get this underway. The people that live there are expecting it. So yeah, I know. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Next, we have corporate and planning services.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh.
I'm just going to highlight some of the statistics that were mentioned in these two reports, starting with corporate services. You'll notice that the contacts for the bylaw enforcement officers is up quite a bit. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, as we've mentioned, we have had a lot of issues with dogs this year barking at large. And unsightly properties. And that is a big part of the reason for the increased numbers of contacts. The other reason is that during the summer, the seasonal staff identified a few areas of problem parking and boat trailer parking. And part of their public education efforts were to write warning tickets. And that's represented in some of the numbers that you see that are increased by quite a bit. The second thing I want to highlight in the report is that you'll see there's quite a bit of posting and interviews still taking place as we work to bring the town back up to full staffing. The third item I want to mention in the corporate services report is that the contacts at the public counter in this building have come down quite a bit. And I believe that's due to people getting used to the utility billing. That had really driven our numbers up for a little while. I think everybody's familiar with the process now, and we're seeing our numbers come back to more of a normal range. In the planning area, we'll see that this quarter's report shows it kind of reflects the number of planning issues we've seen on all the council agendas lately. There's a lot going on in the planning area in terms of projects. Building permit numbers are up substantially from 2024, with a total value in the building permits to date this year of about 9.7 million. The final thing I want to highlight is the number of contacts in the planning office. And maybe it's a build it and they will come kind of a situation since the office reopened, but the numbers of contacts over the phone, email, and in person are up substantially.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of Mrs.
Thank you,
Colson?
Madam Mayor. I guess I just look at animal control warnings. Now, is that you send them a letter, you make a phone call, and then is that like a second phone call, or how many warnings do they get before something happens?
I'm at a disadvantage to know exactly which things fall into which category there. And I think it probably takes different forms depending on whether this is the first time they've seen this dog or whether it's a repeat.
So this 134 could be some people be in contact 3 or 4 times.
It's possible if we keep seeing the same dog. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much, Mrs. Colson. Oh, go ahead.
I guess with the parking issue, I was down here somewhere. Did the streets get painted yet yellow?
Through your worship, some of the streets did, but there was some that were omitted from the process due to it's just staffing turnover. There was some lack of communication that went to the painting company, so there was some that was not done. The last information I received is that we had some additional funding to do some more of the painting, likely still not enough to do all the painting that we have in our community. So within the next budget, we're probably going to incorporate some of that, and hopefully our painting that occurs next spring will look after some of those areas that have been painted for a while, especially along Motel Row, which has been a concern due to the heavy pedestrian traffic and safety concerns.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I just make a follow-up then. So people that have lived here a long time kind of know where they're not supposed to park. But if there's no yellow and technically they're not supposed to park there and they park there, are they getting tickets?
No, the warning tickets predominantly were around boat trailer parking and that parking lot, people who parked there and did not renew their payment, and also 2-hour zones.
I guess I'm just talking on the street, not the parking lot. Like I'm aware some places I'm not supposed to park, but I parked there because all the yellow's been disappeared. So technically, am I legal to park there?
My understanding is that those warning tickets were in areas with signage, not yellow paint.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Mrs. Coulson. So we're going to go to Osoyoos Fire Rescue. Mr. Risling?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to be providing an update on the Osoyoos Fire Rescue. Again, this fabulous volunteers, they've been able to maintain or increase their numbers over the past quarter, which is fantastic. Want to give a big kudos to those volunteers. Overall, the statistics are fairly even compared to the previous year. Call volumes went up slightly, around 7%, which means about 5 calls. I do know that if we go further back, even though this was an increase from 24 to 25, the 71 calls that we received this quarter isn't outlandish compared to a longer history. So a slight increase, not significant. As far as other things that have been going on there, I think a big part of the Osoyoos Fire Rescue Plan is to educate and be involved in the community, which this quarter was from July 1st to September 30th. They did a lot of things. Cherry Fiesta, they obviously are one of the highlight floats coming through the parade with the water and their Barbie theme this past year. They've done a lot of other things like the farmers market to educate people on fire smart and fire safety in general. They had some good news stories, which you hope you never have to do the things, but as we know, the fire to the north, which was a bit of a scare with the wind in the direction moving the fire towards the community. They did a fantastic job and putting that fire out. They were the first on scene. There were 23 members, so basically the entire crew was out there. Anybody that was in the community at the time of that fire were out there. Had just tremendous support of the region, RDOS, and the various volunteer fire departments, the RCMP, Osoyoos Oliver rescue group. So it was just an incredible regional effort in putting out that fire within hour or two. So overall, a pretty good news report. Fairly low key, fairly even, and that's I think what we like to see from the fire department.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the great pictures that have been added to this report too. They really show what they're doing and how busy they are. And I think it's sweet. And they quite recently they've had an open house down at the fire department. I wasn't there this year. Or did you go? Good. And I think that those kinds of things are really important to the community, and certainly coming down to the farmers market in the summertime. They had lots of kids coming and asking questions. They're all very good about it. So thank you very much for that.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you know if the Fire Smart has been initiated in this town? Or completed?
Through your worship, we did apply for a grant, and we're working with the RDOS to do a lot more work in that area over the upcoming years. So we're working in collaboration with them, utilizing that grant funding that council supported earlier this year. We were successful in obtaining. So I think over the next year or so, you're going to see a lot more effort in that regard.
Thank you.
Well, we haven't gotten the grant yet, but we're preparing for it. We think we're going to be successful, hopefully.
So Make Water Work this year from the Okanagan Basin Water Board, where we got the award, also works with Fire Smart. So they're trying to combine those two. Okay, Financial Services Department. Mrs. Keith.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank council and staff for the warm welcome I received since this is my first completed quarter. Staff, both downstairs and upstairs and in ops, has been incredible to me and helping me with trying to transition and understand what's happened in the past and what we can achieve going forward. With this report, there's just a couple things to note. As we've all been aware, we've had a resource issue with some lack of staffing. And as a result, a number of projects will be delayed going forward. So you'll see in the budget process, we'll have a lot of carry forwards. On the other hand, our investment funds, however, have grown and putting us in a very good position. So that's always nice to see. Bottom line, the black and white is going to show that we're going to be in a surplus position. However, that doesn't necessarily reflect into our balance sheet as we still have a number of these projects to complete and a number of operations to complete before year end. The postal strike has put our staff in an awkward position. However, they've reacted incredibly well. We've had a number of residents come in and sign up to our electronic services. So again, to Ms. Coulson's remarks, hopefully the contact at the front will be a little less as they choose to send their monies through electronic means. I really appreciate the efforts made by residents to help us out there. It's twofold. It helps with efficiencies here, but it also helps us cut our costs administratively.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you,
Kent.
Madam Mayor. I guess, are we going to be mailing out the invoices now for the water and sewer because the post is back at work?
We're going to do both.
Thank
With
you.
the one, with the ones we have set up electronically, we'll also have electronic mail out as well. Just given the number of residents we have that are out of town.
I mean, like a hard copy in the mail?
Yes.
Can I ask, on your financial update, you say that fire and RCMP services were well below budgeted expenses and partly because of the vacancies in the RCMP. So did we include the amounts that we've obviously paid to support a lot of extra RCMP here for the summertime? That has been included.
That
in
has
this.
been incorporated. The issue with RCMP to consider is their year end is March. So we're a quarter behind in receiving the updated expenses. But even factoring that in, we're still going to come in below just because the costs aren't equal across the board.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions? Good. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Keith. And we will now go to Operational Services Quarterly Report. Mr. Risling.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Director Madsen had to deal with one of our most important priorities is water. So he's meeting with some provincial folks as we speak, and again, because it's such a priority, you got to pass coming here. From the Operational Services Department, I think this is, I guess, maybe another good news story with regards to council's aware there's been a lot of staffing vacancies and a lot of patchwork that's needed to be going on, and they've kept the wheels on, much like the fire department. Good news is they've kept things going. The good news is also that we did fill one of our leadership positions, although it wasn't in this quarter. Maybe we'll start seeing a little bit of a summary of the results in the next quarter. But Jillian Abney joined us just 3 weeks ago now, so that's going to be definitely a big support in that area. As far as highlights, most of the items are pretty much on track. There is a bit more water usage from the domestic system, a little bit more water usage on the ag system. We're uncertain on the domestic system as to what that increase was, but there is an increase in usage about 10 to 15%. We're really looking forward to implementing the full Neptune water meter system to actually have a better understanding of where that water usage is going. And so that's, again, the information is incredibly important to be able to make decisions on some of our resources and some of the things that we can do to adjust behaviors if there's things that we can influence. So there are some stats here that are, again, increasing. Unfortunately, as council probably is aware, and it's identified in the report, we don't have the information available with regards to the sanitary sewer system. Hopefully we can get that fairly soon, update this report. Other than that, I think some of the other positives occurred over the last few weeks is that we've got a few of our construction projects completed. Just outside Town Hall here is a few streets that were completed just before or right on July 1st. There's some street line painting that occurred just after July 1st. And of course, Magnolia just basically done. Maybe there's a couple cleanup type pieces, but that project was also completed this quarter. The other highlights are the water treatment pilot study that was operational this past quarter. That's critical to final design of the water plant. So that facility is going to be monitoring water qualities over the next year. And again, the importance of that is to test water throughout the year to see what changes occur to it so that it provides better information for when they engineer the final drawings for the water plant itself. On the water meter front, a lot of progress again was made over the past quarter. There's probably about 100 or so properties left on the with regards to vaults and interiors, some of the complex interior ones that are required additional work and plumbing work to do. So as of today, it's probably around that 100 mark. Plus we have what we call the vaults, and the vaults are those properties that are larger, like the stratas. There's about 12 of them that are actually starting this week. And so hopefully over the next month or 2 months, they actually get completed. It really depends on the weather. I know that's not part of this quarter, but I know it's something that a lot of people are interested in. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. Yeah, and that concludes the quarterly report.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions about that? Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
So I noticed that the wastewater treatment plant odor control is delayed. Do you have any details or updates as to that specific CAP project?
One of the things that's occurring with our lagoons is we may have to actually do an additional study prior to actually moving forward with some of our lagoon improvements. So I believe the Ministry of Environment requires certain paperwork and studies to be done before you start changing some of the things. So that's what we're actually in the process of looking at right now. So that is causing a bit of delay on that side. The staffing is also an issue as far as delays without any doubt, but I know that's the last thing I've heard on lagoons. Any energy that we have had has been going to keeping the wheels on, as far as from an operational perspective, and the water treatment plant. So Tyler has been, that's where he's been really focusing a ton of his work. But hopefully in the next quarter, I can provide a better update, or maybe even during the budget process, on where the lagoons are at and what we can proceed with and what we can't.
And is that in line with just under it, the wastewater treatment plant lagoon review and pre-design? Is that a similar project, or is that more so for the cell 1 MBBR conversion?
I think they're all connected, but I can go back and get additional information. I believe they're all connected. So prior to actually starting to move some things around or making some changes, there's a report that goes to the Ministry of Environment to ensure that we're following what we originally submitted back in 2000 or something like that. So that's the process we're going through right now to see what things we potentially can do without updating that. I believe it's a bit of a study, but it's mostly asking permission from the ministry on what we can do. So I don't have all the facts, and probably didn't provide it is maybe as 100% accurate as I should, but I can make sure that we do get that information for you, so that the timelines and what we can and can't do will be provided to council.
Okay, anything else on the agenda today? Then my assumption is that, yes, it's been terminated. Is there a seconder? Councillor Chong, all in favor? Thank you.